Greetings, Starfleet Command. This is Fleet Chaplain Danish House. Live long and prosper. Greeting you here on Sunday, May 8th, 2022. It's been a great week. We had the finale of season 2 of Picard, which in my view was okay. And we had the premiere of Strange New Worlds, which in my view was yay, a fantastic show. You guys know me. I love all Star Trek, so it's not every particular episode, but I love all Star Trek in general. I love even some of the worst of Star Trek. I love, and I love Picard. I love Discovery, but I will tell you that for me, Star Trek: Strange New Worlds really feels like it is scratching an itch that I maybe didn't even realize that I had. And it feels like it's really connecting with where I want Star Trek to be. So I'm really excited. I'm really delighted by it. And the first episode of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, I don't think I'm going to spoil much for you today. So if you haven't seen the first episode of Strange New Worlds, go see it. But I don't think I'm going to spoil anything for you. What I'll just say is that I really loved it. And I thought it was great. It returns Star Trek to sort of episodic storytelling. I really fell in love with serial storytelling in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I thought that Deep Space Nine did it fantastically, having a mix of serialization and episodic TV. I had high hopes for Discovery and Picard with serial storytelling. It hasn't really worked out the way I've hoped it would in either case. And I've really loved the episodic storytelling of Star Trek Prodigy and Star Trek Lower Decks. And so bringing episodic storytelling back to live action Star Trek, I think, is great. And I love Captain Pike. I like all the crew there. Just seem really wonderful. The crew all seem like characters. They seem like people that I want to get to know, and I'm really excited about that. I haven't always felt that way about every Star Trek show. So that's been really cool, and I really love this first episode. In my own home, I had a watch party for Strange New Worlds. These are some of the folks who were at my watch party. And we had a great time together. We ate snacks and watched Strange New Worlds and talked about it. It was a lot of fun. I gave out copies of a Strange New Worlds print that I drew. This is my little print of the Strange New Worlds crew and the Enterprise. I drew this, and so I made up copies of it and gave one to each person who was at my watch party. So that was fun for me, and we just had a really good time with watching Star Trek. Since the episode aired, one of the criticisms that I've heard has sort of hit me kind of close to home. The criticism is that it's a little preachy at the end, and again, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but in some ways, the story, the conflict of the story, the problem that they're trying to solve is solved by Captain Pike giving a very Star Trekian speech, and so some folks have said it's kind of preachy. And now I'm a preacher, right? That's what I do. I preach for a living. Today is Sunday. This morning I preached in my congregation. I love to preach. I love listening to preaching, and so criticizing Pike's speech as being preachy sort of hit home, and I wanted to think about it. Was that preachy? And I think in one sense it was. I mean, it was one person sort of standing in place, talking to a group of other people who are mostly silent and they're listening, and he's talking to them about how they ought to change their lives, how they ought to think differently, and he's challenging them to a better life. In that sense, yeah, it is preachy, which is interesting because Anson Mount, who plays Captain Christopher Pike in interviews prior to the launch of Strange New Worlds, said that he felt that Strange New Worlds was going to dive into important issues like Star Trek often has, but it wasn't going to be preachy about it because it didn't give. And this is important about what he said. He said that what we're trying to do is to surface questions, to raise questions. We're not trying to give answers. And I think that's a very, very interesting point. I think when we look to art, and certainly making television is art. Okay, I make visual art. I draw, but making television is art as well. Um, art art that tries to tell you what to do with your life. Art that tells you what's right and wrong. Art that tells you, uh, you know, the answer to the question. That art does come across as kind of medley, right? Not preachy, but meddling in our lives, right? That it sort of oversteps a bound. Art seems to be at its best when it raises questions. And so I appreciate what Anson Mount was saying, but did this episode really live up to that? Because here you have a guy standing there telling people how to change their lives. Isn't that giving answers? I want to point out some ways in which I think it doesn't cross the line into unpleasant preachiness. My hope is, and my prayer is, that when I preach, I'm not being unpleasant in my preachiness, right? I hope that I'm finding a way to preach in a way that isn't preachy, if you know what I mean. Just like you can eat fish that doesn't taste fishy, right? For one thing, when Pike beams down into that council chamber, what's the first thing he says? If you've seen the episode, he says, "Hi, sorry to interrupt." Right? There's this humility about Pike when he beams down to the planet. He's not storming in there. Now he has done a little storming in earlier. He's done a little bit of shaking his the big stick. But there's a humility that's there. He talks about how he has seen his own future, and my future was not all I'd hoped. He talks about talking with a friend of his about his future, and he said, I didn't understand what he meant. Pike spends time um, establishing that he is not perfect in this, right? He spends time establishing that he doesn't have everything figured out. He's not standing there arrogantly, although clearly the aliens earlier had received some of what he had said as arrogant. He's not coming in sort of, I've got the right way to go. Rather, what he does is he comes in and he shows them the problem. He shows them what his own civilization had gotten wrong and how costly it was. He's not setting himself up as this expert who's got all the answers. Rather, he sets himself up as a fellow struggler, right? Someone whose people have made the same mistakes. And I just want to help you to not make the same mistakes that my folks did. It's a problem. The problem that you're facing right now is a problem that I can identify with because I've struggled with it myself. And he holds a mirror up and says, look, where is this going to lead? I love what Pike is doing there. It's, I think, the best sort of preachiness, the best sort of preaching. He's not coming in as the boss telling people what to do. Rather, he's coming in as an older brother, so to speak, coming in saying, look, I'm not here to tell you that you're bad. What I'm here to tell you is, look, I've made the same mistakes that you have. I'm struggling in the same ways that you are. Here's the answers that I found. Uh, Oftentimes, Christian preachers will talk about preaching as one beggar telling another beggar where they found bread. Right? I think at its best, preaching is that. It's not someone standing there and saying, hey, I'm going to authoritatively tell you what to do. Rather, it's somebody standing up saying, look, I'm a struggler just like you. Here are some of the answers I've found. Maybe they're helpful to you. Pike says, and I want to tattoo this on my eyeballs. I want to put this on a shirt. Pike says, maybe that's why I'm here, to remind you of the power of possibility. Maybe that's why I'm here, to remind you of the power of possibility. When I was watching that, I thought, that is maybe a mission statement for the entire show. Maybe that's why the show is here, to remind us of the power of possibility. I thought that was fantastic. And I thought at the end, he said, look, you have a choice. You can go this way or you can go that way. The choice, he says, is yours. And he doesn't tell them what to do, but he does show them clearly the way that his people chose to go and says, like, don't go the way that we went. Choose a different path. And I think that is the best sort of preaching, right? And maybe I love the episode because I'm a preacher, but you see that his preaching changes an entire planet, right? You see an entire planet full of people choosing a different way because of the sermon that he preached. Maybe the writers of Strange New Worlds saw this as kind of pastor fanfic. I don't know, but I loved it. I thought it was great, and I like to think that my preaching does the same thing. That my preaching comes in and is not arrogant, but rather says, "Hey, I'm a struggler just like you, and I'm one beggar showing another beggar where they found bread, and lives are changed as a result. What better thing is there for a preacher?" In Star Trek canon, Pike's father was a scholar of comparative religions. Pike has a background. I don't know if he's personally religious himself, but he has a background in understanding of world religions that he sort of got from his father's knee. I think Pike has imbibed the best parts of the preaching tradition. Pike doesn't get up there telling them arrogantly what to do. Rather, Pike shows them that he's struggled as well. Here's the problem, holds up some options that they can pursue, and leaves the choice up to them. If this is preachiness, then I want to be a preacher, and I am a preacher. So I hope that it's a good thing, and I hope that you enjoy it. I hope that if you watch this episode and you feel like it's preaching at you, I hope that you this maybe has helped you to reconsider that a little bit and say, I don't think that they're preaching at us. I think that only Pike is preaching at us. I think Pike is coming as a character saying, hey, I'm struggling with this just the same way that you are. Anyway, those are my thoughts about Strange New Worlds, episode 1, titled Strange New Worlds. And I enjoyed it immensely. I can't wait for the next episode, Children of the Comet. And I hope that you enjoyed it as well. Hey, thanks for joining me for this little tour through episode 1 of Strange New Worlds from the perspective of a preacher. I hope that it was helpful to you, and I really enjoy being with you here at Starfleet Command. Live long and prosper, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.